Last thing I was going to forget was my hat, and it was the last thing I forgot. This is Delve Someone. First question, of course, is from me, Tony M. Or Metonym. Metonym. I think Metonym. You're still posting. I last saw you 5 years ago. I thought you stopped. It was the world that stopped, okay? It was 2020. Next question, of course, is from Mozart1220. I'm sure Jerry will be crushed to find out he's lost you as a friend. Can I cancel you? Yes, I will. That's not a... Well, that first part was a question, and then you answered it or something. And I don't think Jerry will be upset at losing me as a friend. He's used to having no friends. Next question, of course, is from Dog Whistle Sharam 9029. Which is best, wet toilet paper or dry toilet paper? Of course, I'm not going into a taste comparison. And I mean, you know, I've got an app for that sort of thing. Look. Oh, cold. Oh, that's better. I'm feeling more and clean now. That's warm. Next question, of course, is from Hervey Wasawas. Have you tried Vegemite, Marmite or Vegemite, and which, if any, is your preference? Well, of course, I tried both, but you gotta wash it off afterwards, or else things get a bit sticky when you put on your pants. Next question, of course, is from Herbie Wasawas, 4359. No, Dog Whistle Sharon. Did you see the aurora, or were you asleep like everyone else? Keep the blue lotus flower tea. It might be a good idea if you don't like colours. Well, okay, look, I was awake for the aurora. I mean, sometimes I do have, sleeping disorders, so I have trouble getting to sleep sometimes, and sometimes I have problems staying asleep as well, and trouble staying awake. So I did stay awake during the time of the aurora, and I got a really good view of the underside of the clouds. But I can do a dramatic recreation of me enjoying the aurora.
Aurora Borealis!
No, that's the wrong aurora. Try again.
Aurora Australis!
Next question, of course, is from Stubbs. Insert question here. Insert witty answer that has something completely unexpected here. Next question, Jonathan Stern. What is Elite? All right, Elite. Right. Now, I used to have this computer called the Commodore 64. It had 64 bytes of memory, and that's it. No, kilobytes. 64 kilobytes of memory, less than what it less than like you need for like a really, really basic phone from the 1990s. Anyway, and it's a space game. It's a space game, but not, it's like 3 dimensions. And they did it all with 64 kilobytes of memory. And you could fly through thousands of worlds and shoot up dozens of spaceships, all with 64 kilobytes of memory. Less than a JPEG. They managed to do this, 2 programmers, for 3 months, and they made one of the biggest games of all the 1980s. 1984. Before anybody else did any kind of 3D game at all, ever. And they did it for 64 kilobytes of memory before anybody else. That's what sort of game Elite was. Elite was elite. Like, the Game Elite was elite in that it was the best one. And, like, started every single other game that's represented in 3 dimensions. That's what Elite was. And if you missed out on Elite, well, there's probably get it on Steam or something. Or, one of the sequels, which is the same except it's not rendered in 3D wireframes. Next question, of course, is from Jonathan Stern. Are the venomous animals of Australia immune to their own venom, or do they die if they bit their tongue? Well, I don't know. I've never tasted the tongue of a venomous animal to find out. But I mean, they must have different ways of stopping themselves from poisoning themselves if they bite their tongue. Like snakes, the teeth don't intersect with their tongues, so they can't bite it. And with platypuses, only the male platypus is venomous, and the venomous barb is in their feet. So unless they are really, really good at yoga, then they're not going to bite their tongue either. They're not going to. If they bite their tongue, it's not going to do anything except make them lisp. But they're not going to bite their own foot because that part is venomous. Don't ask how I know. I read it in a book. Next question, of course, Matthew Yebsley. I've missed the last dozen or so of your videos. Can you please give a recap in a single facial expression? No. I told you I couldn't. Next question, of course, Hervey Wasalis. Which Doctor Who episode did you prefer, and what were you wearing when you didn't watch Eurovision? I wasn't wearing pants when I wasn't watching Eurovision, and I didn't prefer Space Babies because watching the Beatles sing about dogs, that was the highlight of my the costume was great. The costume was great, and other stuff was great. I've got to watch it like 8 more times though, because it's Doctor Who, and I've got to do it before that Disney subscription lapses. But it was all good. It was all fine. It was all good. Fine. Good. I want something better. The whole episode of him standing on a landmine. That's going to be sensational. Moffat wrote it. Next question, of course, is from Canadian Atheist. Is it really true that when you really, really, really need it the most, then rock and roll dreams come true? That's when rock and roll... sorry. Yes, well, I mean, I didn't get into Eurovision because, the things. But I mean, I can't. I'm going to have a bit of a problem being a rock star because I am now much older than most other rock stars, and I have sleeping disorders. But I can organise myself to have some rock and roll dreams. So now, what I do at night, because I have the sleeping disorders and stuff, and I sometimes have trouble getting to sleep, is I put on a little podcast or a YouTube video of a podcast. So, in order to get some rock and roll dreams, I put on a video called it's this channel called Professor of Rock. He talks about rock and roll, musicians and all that sort of thing. I'll put that on, and I hope to dream about being Kool and the Gang this time. It was Kool and the Gang. So I fall asleep straight away. And then I didn't get into the sleep dream cycle yet, and I sort of woke up again. And that entire episode had gone by, and I didn't even dream once. But the next episode, the next video was about next video was about John Landis, and that wasn't a Professor of Rock. That was the behind the bus, because that's okay. That's okay. He's always a bit flippant about it, and nothing bad will happen. Nothing bad will happen about John Landis. So I go back. I drift off to sleep. Nothing bad will happen. And then at about 3 o'clock in the morning, I start to dream. And then Robert Evans starts accusing me of killing Vic Morrow and 2 kids using a helicopter, and then going to the funeral and saying that I'm the victim. I wasn't the victim. I'm not even John Landis. That's it for Tell Someone for this week. If you would like to ask me a question, ask me a question in the question answering place below there. Down there. Or as well as doing doing the dovetail question, of course. No, you can do a dovetail question or answer the question. Answer the dovetail question in the same place. You can answer the dovetail question by putting your answer in the place for the questions below, or the answers for the dovetail question below. Have I made myself perfectly clear? Then I haven't done my job. I'm dangerously talented, and I don't have a cool sign-off.